So with the futures of work, it's not just work, but there's many subtopics under the futures of work. So just letting people go off in all of these different directions, and encouraging them to go where they want to go with it. They're going to bring something unique to the table if they follow sort of, where their interests flow within this topic. And I talk about how there's many different types of signals. We often think about, when we think about the future, it's, technology, AI and VR and all that. But really trying to encourage folks who are maybe new to futures and future thinking that technology is important, but is only one of many different areas of the future. And often technology is almost the surface level. Like, if we kind of go back to, if we kind of trace back under, it's there's going to be something, values or culture or social or economic that is actually fueling what we're seeing in the in terms of technology. So, we tend to fund what we think is important, and then that shows up as technology. I'm also experimenting. So those who know a lot about futures thinking or foresight, you'll see that the first row is the steep V, so social, technological, environmental, economic, political / legislative, and values culture. But I'm also experimenting with the idea that steep V is useful yet limited. And so I have a science background, and as well in terms of what would be more appropriate, what would be more fulsome than just a steep V. But I'm looking at the biological as one of them. And so I think biological often falls under environmental or social. But I think it needs to be its own category. We're noticing that, at the biochemical, at the cellular level, that there are changes. And so for example, we're hearing reports all the time that men's sperm count has gone down, is like half of what it used to be a generation or two ago. I had another example. Oh yeah, so but also, as much as we think that we've sort of removed ourselves from evolution, and we have to many extents, but much of the natural world has not. And so we can think of it as environmental, but maybe we need to think it at the biological, at the cellular level, at the genetics level. A signal that I seen a couple of years ago was around how conflicts, are creating physical boundaries in which animals and plants can't cross. And so on either side of these boundaries that we have created as humans, genetics are changing. And so if you are, a bioenthusiast or a genetics enthusiast, it's creating these human-made bottlenecks that are creating new genetic patterns. So that's why I think we kind of need to get into it, and there's, kind of get it, maybe pull out a little bit more from the steep V. And I have a couple of other examples of maybe psychological or emotional, but also spiritual, identity and community, but I won't get too far into that. But just to know that I think there's more categories that are important these days. And then finally, when I'm starting a SCAN club, I want to keep it simple. I want people to be able to participate immediately. And so what I say is there's just 3 things that we need to know about when we're discussing signals of change. One is, you'll notice they'll always start with what is the change? So some sort of summary of the signal that I'm seeing. And then we need to go into why do we care? So who or what will be impacted and how and why? And then finally, we need to go off sort of into our imaginations, into creativity, and we need to think about what might come of this. So in 20 years or 20 years from now, we ... And I say, that's it. It's not any more complicated than that. And then usually at this point I say, the best way to learn about signals is to start talking about signals.